Think it's arrogant for a young executive to act like this, and new hires should shine shoes. The condescending voice echoed through the office. The New York skyline, painted in dusk's warm hues, spread out beyond the high-rise window. Framed by the view, Executive Vice President Tosia Segawa's profile cast an ominous shadow. Watching Segawa's arrogance, Mitsuki Shinomiya stood up quietly. "Do you even know who he really is?" With that single remark, Segawa's face froze. After 10 years, the truth was about to be revealed. The meeting room's air instantly thickened with tension. What? The setting sun illuminated the keepsake watch on my wrist, a gift from my late father. The truth of who I really am. The son of the company's founder. A developer of cutting-edge, globally recognized technology in Silicon Valley. And a firm determination to protect the company. And someone with an unwavering resolve to protect this company. My name is Shinichi Fujikawa. I'm 37 years old and work for a company called Growth Technology. It's been a decade since I last set foot in the headquarters here. Standing in front of the skyscraper, gazing up, I felt a surge of indescribable emotion. 10 years ago, this building didn't even exist. Back then, my father and I were running the company from a tiny office space. Receiving my employee badge at the reception, I stepped into the elevator. As the sprawling New York cityscape unfolded outside the window, my mind wandered back to my 10 years in Silicon Valley. After my father's company went bankrupt and he tragically took his own life, I left everything behind and moved to the US. Starting from scratch, I poured my soul into developing innovative security technology. And eventually, I created something the world couldn't ignore. Fujikawa, long time no see. Stepping out of the elevator, I heard a familiar voice. Turning around, I saw Mitsuki Shinomiya standing there. 10 years ago, she was a new hire I worked alongside. A childhood friend who supported me when my father's company failed. "Shinomiya, you're looking well." "Thanks. I'm now the manager in the accounting department. I was really looking forward to you coming back." She greeted me with the same warm smile I remembered. Glancing at my father's keepsake watch, I noticed its steady ticking. Time had passed, yet I felt a joy in working with Shinomiya again, just like old times. My eyes caught sight of the worn notebook she was holding. It was the same one we used to dream about the company's future together. Walking into the executive floor, I felt the stares of employees around me. None of them seemed to know who I was. I left for Silicon Valley, entrusting the company to a trusted ally while keeping my identity as the founder's son a secret. For now, that was for the best. While reviewing materials for a new system integration project with the overseas branch, an unpleasant voice interrupted me. "Hey, newbie, why are you taking it easy? Get to work already." The voice belonged to Tosia Segawa, the 32-year-old executive vice president. He was young but had risen quickly to his position. Recently, his comments in board meetings seemed unusually fixated on stock-related matters. Shinomiya glanced over at me with a worried expression. However, I decided to stay silent and watch for now. I needed to feel the pulse of the workplace firsthand, keeping my father's words, "Always value people's hearts," close to mine. When I logged into the headquarters system, the progress of a new software under development appeared on the screen. This software was meant to shape the future of the company. It was the culmination of a decade's work and a realization of my father's dream. A dream I vowed to bring to life with my own hands. As I returned to the office floor, a new hire stopped me. Eager to hear about my experiences in Silicon Valley, I saw in their sparkling eyes a reflection of my younger self. Hey, stop chatting so casually with the new hires, especially for someone like you, a mid-level recruit. Tosia Segawa, the EVP, emerged from around the corner, reprimanding me harshly. It wasn't just directed at me but also at the new employee. You, get started on the meeting documents right now. As for you, clean out the copy room. The paper wastage has been ridiculous. The new hire lowered their head and hurried away. Segawa's cold demeanor froze the atmosphere in the office. I'll take care of the copy room cleanup, but I'd suggest being a bit more considerate in guiding the new recruits. Shut up. Mid-level hires like you have no business commenting on company policy. With stock-related documents in hand, Segawa shot me a glare. From a corner of the office, I noticed Mitsuki Shinomiya watching the situation with concern. Understood. Excuse me. After finishing in the copy room, I saw Shinomiya still working late into the night on the accounting floor. Stacks of stock-related paperwork surrounded her as she pored over the documents. The next morning, a system malfunction occurred. While the development team scrambled to fix it, Segawa appeared. What's taking so long? Get this system back online now. As he berated the developers, the screen behind him flickered with an incoming call for an emergency video meeting from the Silicon Valley branch. Let's try rebooting the system, I suggested. Segawa curled his lips into a mocking smirk. An amateur like you should keep your mouth shut and stay out of this. But the system issues only grew worse. In the tense meeting room, I discreetly activated a program I had developed. The screens began to recover gradually. What's this, acting on your own? At that moment, senior executives from the overseas office appeared on the screen. Their demeanor shifted instantly upon recognizing me. Fujikawa, it's been so long. Segawa's face stiffened. The atmosphere in the room shifted dramatically. After the meeting ended, Segawa called me into his office. His desk was cluttered with an unusual number of stock-related documents. You infiltrated this place, hiding your true identity. Who the hell are you? No, I simply followed the proper procedures to return. Don't get cocky. You're just the heir to some minor company at best. His words triggered memories of my father's death. But I held back my emotions, responding calmly. You are right. But now, as an employee of this company, I'm determined to give my best. Then stick to a job that suits your rank. Starting tomorrow, you'll be in charge of cleaning. Late that night, Shinomiya came to see me, clutching an old notebook in her hands. Fujikawa, something's off with the VP Segawa's behavior. There are irregularities in his stock acquisition records. I know, but let's observe a bit longer. Shinomiya looked like she wanted to say more, but I shook my head gently. The hands of my father's keepsake watch ticked away. Don't rush, act calmly. I could almost hear my father saying. The next morning, something new happened during the company-wide meeting. EVP Segawa suddenly proposed revising the internal venture program. For the future of our company, unnecessary investments must be avoided, especially in untrustworthy individuals. His words caused a stir in the room. Many employees wore uneasy expressions. EVP Segawa, I think that's a dangerous suggestion. Silence. A mid-level hire like you should stick to polishing shoes. The room froze as Segawa shoved out one of his expensive leather shoes. The employees collectively held their breath. Just then, Shinomiya stood up and walked toward Segawa. EVP Segawa, do you really not know who he is? Segawa's expression faltered for a moment, but quickly regained its domineering stance. Mind your own business. Stick to your role in the accounting department. On the company network monitor, suspicious access records flashed. Segawa's unease was beginning to take shape. After the meeting ended, Shinomiya came to the office with accounting materials in hand. Along with her usual documents, she also carried an old notebook and a pile of stock-related files. The morning sunlight streaming through the window softly illuminated the stacked papers on her desk. "Shinomiya, you still have that notebook?" "Yes, I've kept it all these years to remember the promise we made 10 years ago." At that time, we had just joined the company as new hires. It was also the period when my father's company was struggling financially. As a rookie in the accounting department, Shinomiya stayed late every night, helping brainstorm ways to rebuild my father's company. "Fujikawa, don't you feel like some things changed here?" The employees' expressions seemed so gloomy. "Yay, the atmosphere has really shifted. 10 years ago, there was much more energy." A deep furrow formed on Shinomiya's brow. She pulled out a document from the stack on her desk. It was a record of stock transactions signed by EVP Segawa. The document showed irregular trading patterns. "I've noticed unusual stock activity since EVP Segawa took office, particularly in the last 3 months." As I examined the document, the suspicious patterns became evident. Notably, large stock acquisitions from major trading companies stood out. The timing also coincided with a period of declining company performance. "So this is what you've been staying late to investigate?" "Yes, but I couldn't confirm it alone. These records seem linked to the trading company run by EVP Segawa's father." Just then, EVP Segawa entered the office. The sound of his leather shoes against the floor was grating. Noticing us, he scowled. "What are you plotting? The accounting department has plenty of work. Manager Shinomiya, have you forgotten your position?" "My apologies. I'll return to my tasks immediately." As Shinomiya walked away, Segawa shot me a cold glare. The oppressive atmosphere hung like a snake ready to strike. "Don't dig too deep. Follow company policy, and I'll ensure fair treatment. In this industry, connections are everything." "Thank you for your kindness." After Segawa left, I received an email from Shinomiya. Attached to it were suspicious access logs from the company's system. It showed traces of logins during off hours using unauthorized credentials. Notably, these activities coincided with the time just before the shareholders' meeting. During lunch, I met Shinomiya at a cafe near the office. The atmosphere inside brought back memories of when we used to come here as new employees. As I sat by the window, I noticed the unchanged cityscape from 10 years ago. "Do you remember sitting here, talking about the company's future? I think the weather was just like this." "Yeah, that was when my father's company was on the brink of collapse. You stayed with me late every night." Shinomiya opened her old notebook, showing a page dated 10 years ago. Written on it were the dreams of our younger selves. The ink had faded, but the emotions behind the words were still vivid. "You promised to return, Fujikawa, and I vowed to protect the company. But now, it's in danger." Her eyes wavered as she spoke. The pain of failing to save my father's company resurfaced deep in my chest. The steam rising from the coffee cup on the table mirrored memories of the past. "Shinomiya, I'm sorry. I made you wait for 10 years and left you to carry this burden alone." "Don't apologize, Fujikawa. You worked hard, created groundbreaking technology in Silicon Valley, and vowed to make this company global." She trailed off as she spread out new documents on the table. They were stock transaction records involving the trading company owned by Segawa's father. The transaction dates and amounts formed an unnatural pattern. Segawa Trading is pulling strings. The company is at risk, with their shareholding ratio steadily increasing. "Understood. Let's proceed with the investigation. But for now, Don't reveal my identity. Why? If you return, everything could. It's easier to uncover the truth this way. Besides, there's still something I need to confirm. A quiet moment passed in the cafe. Outside the window, people were bustling home from work. The scene reminded me of the day my father's company went bankrupt. During our conversation, my phone rang. It was a call from the Silicon Valley branch regarding an urgent consultation about implementing the new system. Apparently, the security protocols needed updating. Go ahead. I'll do everything I can to support you. If I notice anything unusual in accounting, I'll report it right away. Before I left, Shinomiya handed me her old notebook. The edges of the pages were slightly worn from years of use. Look at this, Fujikawa. It's the page where we wrote our promise. My feelings hadn't changed since then. On the open page, it was written, I will make this company the world's leading tech firm, in my handwriting. Next to it, in Shinomiya's handwriting, was, I'll help make it happen. The ink had faded with time, but the weight of those words had only grown. I'll keep my promise. This time, I won't let anyone get hurt. As I stepped out of the cafe, the evening cityscape came into view. Just like the day my father's company collapsed 10 years ago. The sunset painted the skyline red. Fujikawa, let's rebuild this company together. Let's finally make our dream come true. Yay! But first, we need to uncover EVP Segawa's intentions. As we parted ways, Shinomiya added with a serious expression, Segawa's father's company recently surged in performance while our stock prices fell, especially after announcing the new system. This situation might be more serious than I had anticipated. Gazing at my father's keepsake watch, I solidified my new resolve. The sunset reflected on the watch face reminded me of the promise I once made. As I watched Shinomiya head back to the accounting floor, I reflected on the management principles my father passed down to me. Cherish people and technology. That philosophy must never be compromised. This time, I will protect this company no matter what. A few days after the cafe meeting, Shinomiya and I continued our investigation late into the night. The accounting department desk was piled high with documents, and stock transaction records filled the computer screen. Outside, it was already dark, and only the two of us remained in the office. Shinomiya, look at this transaction history. A subsidiary of Segawa Trading is buying a fixed amount of shares every month. Yes, and the purchase amounts are gradually increasing. At this pace, they could acquire a majority of the shares within 6 months. As I read through the records, memories of 10 years ago came flooding back. My father's company was targeted in a similar way, almost taken over by a major corporation. I won't let such wrongdoing happen again. Fujikawa, aren't you hungry? It's been quite a while now. Yay, I could grab something from the corner store. Actually, I brought lunch. Would you like to share? She pulled out homemade rice balls from her bag. The scent of pickled plums refreshed my tired mind. This takes me back. You used to make these for me all the time. Yes, even during the difficult days when your father's company was struggling, I brought lunch every day. We ate the rice balls while gazing at the city lights outside the window. The urban lights sparkled like stars in the night sky. How's the development of the new system coming along? It's going well. With the technology I completed in Silicon Valley, we should gain a competitive edge in security. I'm relieved to hear that. Actually, EVP Segawa is trying to significantly cut the budget for the new system. Looking at the documents in front of me, I saw that the budget proposal had indeed been marked down in red. It was clear there was an intent to halt development. Got it. Let's come up with a plan. Just then, the sound of footsteps echoed in the hallway. We quickly turned off the lights and held our breath in the dark. The footsteps grew closer and stopped in front of the accounting department. "Is someone in here?" The voice belonged to EVP Segara. He peered into the room as if to investigate. In the tense silence, Shinomiya's hand gripped my arm. After a while, the footsteps faded, and we let out small sighs of relief. That was close. But what could EVP Segawa be doing here so late? Yay, it's suspicious. Let's start monitoring his actions tomorrow. As it was getting late, we decided to end the investigation for the night. Stepping outside, the early summer night breeze felt pleasant against my cheeks. "Fujikawa, you don't need to walk me home." "No, it's late. I'll make sure you get home safely." We got into a taxi and watched the cityscape flow by through the window. In the quiet of the car, memories from the past came rushing back. "Do you remember the last day 10 years ago, when you left without saying anything to me?" "I'm sorry, but I had decided I would come back someday." "I believed you. That's why I could wait." When we arrived at her house, the full moon softly illuminated us. "Let's do our best tomorrow. We will protect our company, no matter what." "Yeah, this time, it's my turn to protect everyone." The next morning, the office was abuzz with rumors. Word had spread that the development of the new system might be cancelled. A wave of anxiety swept through the employees. "Fujikawa, is this?" "Yay, it's probably Segawa's doing. He's trying to lower morale and manipulate the stock price." At that moment, an urgent message arrived from the Silicon Valley branch. They had detected traces of unauthorized access to the system under development. "Shinomiya, could you look into EVP Segawa's actions from last night?" "Understood. I'll check the security camera footage." By evening, Shinomiya contacted me with findings. She had evidence that EVP Segawa entered the development floor late at night. Just as I thought. Secure the evidence. Got it. But this alone doesn't reveal his motives. No, it's becoming clearer. He's weakening the company to buy it out cheaply. The two of us strategized in the meeting room. The setting sun cast long shadows across the office. "Fujikawa, I have a suggestion. I have some internal documents from Segawa Trading." "How did you get those?" "One of my university classmates works there." The documents she handed over contained details of a secret project. It revealed that plans to acquire our company were already well underway. "Shinomiya, thank you. This gives us what we need to fight back. If there's anything I can do." "Yes, I'll need your help, but it could be risky." "I don't mind. Just like 10 years ago, I'll fight alongside you." The lights in the meeting room illuminated our shared resolve. My father's keepsake watch ticked quietly, marking the passage of time. It was a moment to steel ourselves for the battles ahead. A week had passed since we obtained the internal documents from Segawa Trading. As Shinomiya and I continued the investigation, new truths kept emerging. The accounting department desk was piled high with evidence we had gathered. "Shinomiya, look at this data. These are all the acquisitions Segawa Trading has made over the past 3 years. They all follow the same pattern. First, they manipulate the target company's stock price downward, then initiate a takeover." Spreading out the documents, Segawa Trading's methods became clear. They would poach key personnel, then sabotage performance, and finally acquire the company at a bargain price. Their attack on our company appeared to be following the same playbook. By the way, how's the situation with the development department? The budget reduction proposal for the new system has been officially submitted. At this rate, the project could be cancelled entirely. Before she could finish, a sudden announcement echoed through the office. A company-wide emergency meeting had been called. On the way to the meeting room, the employees' anxious expressions were impossible to miss. EVP Segawa stood on the podium and began announcing new management policies. Citing cost reduction, he proposed a review of the company's core operations. The announcement sent ripples of unease through the workforce. After the meeting, Shinomiya came to my desk. Her expression carried an unusual anger. "Fujikawa, at this rate." "I know. Let's step outside for a bit." The two of us headed to the rooftop, where the city's nightscape stretched out before us. Just like 10 years ago. Back then, we stood here discussing the company's future. Yay, but this time is different. Now we have something to protect. I pulled an envelope from my pocket. It contained the patent certificate for the new technology I developed in Silicon Valley. This will be our trump card, but timing is everything. Understood. I'll be ready. At that moment, the sound of the rooftop door opening caught our attention. We turned to see EVP Segawa standing there. His expression, illuminated by the moonlight, lacked its usual arrogance. "What are you doing here at this hour?" "Just enjoying the view," I replied. "I see. By the way, Manager Shinomiya, about the accounting department's closing documents." "Yes, they'll be ready tomorrow." "No, I need them now. I have an important meeting tonight." The oddity of a late-night meeting raised my suspicions. Shinomiya seemed to hesitate for a moment, sharing my unease. "Shinomiya, let me help. We'll finish faster together." Segawa frowned but said nothing further and left. "Thank you, Fujikawa." "Don't mention it. More importantly, I'm curious about this meeting he mentioned." We returned to the accounting department and logged into the system to begin work. The monitor displayed various financial data related to the closing. "Wait, look at this." On the screen was evidence of Segawa Trading's latest move. A plan to acquire a large portion of our company's shares. They've started moving. It's faster than we expected. But now we have the evidence we need. Segawa's true intentions are clear. As we printed the documents, we heard multiple footsteps in the hallway. Shinomiya quickly turned off the lights. In the darkness, the footsteps stopped outside the accounting department. We could hear Segawa's voice, accompanied by an unfamiliar man's. It sounded like one of Segawa Trading's executives. Their conversation revolved around the buyout plan. Shinomiya tugged at my sleeve and pointed toward the print room. I nodded, and we quietly moved. Once the footsteps faded, Shinomiya let out a small sigh. "Fujikawa, I managed to record the conversation. Great job. Now we can plan our next move." As we prepared to leave the print room, Shinomiya handed me her old notebook. "Take a look at this. I added something to the promise we made 10 years ago." The open page read, "This time, we will protect the company." Yeah, we'll protect it, no matter what. Outside, the sky was just beginning to brighten, heralding a new day. The eastern horizon grew lighter as dawn approached. Despite our tired faces, we carried a quiet determination in our hearts. The evidence we had gathered over the past few days, including the recorded conversation, was now our arsenal to protect the company and its employees. My father's keepsake watch gleamed faintly, as if signaling the beginning of a new battle. A few hours after dawn, new rumors began spreading among the employees. There was talk of a massive workforce reduction plan being orchestrated by Segawa Trading. The atmosphere in the development floor was especially tense. "Shinomiya, did you finish organizing last night's documents?" Yes, all the evidence has been backed up and stored in a secure location. As I walked through the accounting department desk, the events of last night replayed in my mind. The secret discussion between EVP Segawa and executives from Segawa Trading. The budget cuts aimed at halting the development of the new system. All of it was part of their calculated plan for a takeover. Fujikawa, there's a message from the development department. The trial run for the new system was scheduled for this weekend, but did Segawa order it cancelled? No, it's more serious. The system's source code has been tampered with. This report signaled a new escalation. It meant sabotage had begun. Understood. I'll head to the development floor. On my way, I ran into EVP Segawa. He wore a smug expression, practically radiating triumph. So, I hear there's a problem with the system. Perhaps it's time to consider canceling development entirely. No, we'll restore it without fail. Is that so? A bold claim for an amateur. Just then, Shinomiya appeared, clutching documents that proved the system had been tampered with. Fujikawa, here. As Segawa tried to snatch the documents from her hands, shadows emerged in the hallway. It was the engineers from the Silicon Valley branch. They were already aware of the situation. The tampered code has been restored. Segawa's face stiffened. He couldn't hide his unease at this unexpected turn of events. EVP Segawa, everything has been documented as evidence. What evidence? I have no idea what you're talking about. At that, Shinomiya pulled out her old notebook. It contained detailed, chronological records of Segawa's wrongdoings. The suspicious late-night activities, unauthorized system access, everything. Segawa was left speechless and stormed off. But this wasn't the end. The real battle was just beginning. During lunch, Shinomiya and I met at a park near the office to strategize. Sitting on a bench, we discussed our next move. They're using the same methods that destroyed my father's company, but this time, we won't let it happen. Yes, this time, it's different. The dappled sunlight gently illuminated Shinomiya's notebook. You've always been meticulous. Every detail is recorded so clearly. Of course, this is our most important evidence. Thank you, Shinomiya. Without you, we wouldn't have come this far. Her cheeks flushed slightly, and the swaying shadows of the trees softly framed her expression. The day before the board meeting, the office was buzzing with tension. The doors to the executive office swung open. EVP Segawa strode in confidently, flanked by executives from Segawa Trading. Dressed in expensive suits, their expressions exuded a sense of assured victory. Stock prices are fluctuating wildly, and the board is concerned. At this rate, the company's survival is at risk. Hearing those words, the shoulders of the surrounding employees trembled slightly. There was clear mockery in Segawa's tone. EVP Segawa, consider this your final warning. Any further acquisition attempts? Final, and what can you do? You're just a mid-level hire. The sound of his expensive leather shoe lightly tapping a floor echoed. At that moment, Segawa's smartphone rang. The screen displayed the number for Segawa Trading's headquarters. A slight shadow crossed Segawa's confident expression. As he listened to the voice on the other end, the color slowly drained from his face. What? That technology has already been impossible. Ending the call, Segawa's eyes locked onto me like a predator spotting its prey. He had finally grasped the significance of the new system developed by the Silicon Valley branch. You planned this from the beginning. Exactly. This technology is already becoming a global standard. It's something Segawa Trading can never acquire. The atmosphere in the office froze. The executives behind Segawa, visibly rattled, reached for their phones, likely to contact their headquarters. Beads of sweat glistened on their foreheads. Segawa leaned forward, placing both hands on the desk. This isn't over. Once we secure a majority of shares, your technology will be ours. Don't underestimate me. His arrogant stance was interrupted as Shinomiya stood up quietly. In her hands was a thick file, containing years of collected evidence. This technology is protected by clauses. Even with shares, the rights stay with the individual. Segawa staggered back, his face pale with shock. The office's fluorescent lights highlighted his now ashen complexion. What? That's absurd. Yes, we've spent 10 years preparing to protect this technology. I won't let my father's company's fate repeat itself. The oppressive silence in the office was palpable. Outside, the setting sun bathed the city's skyscrapers in a fiery red glow. Segawa slammed his hands on the desk, his anger boiling over. Stop this foolishness. What do you know? In this industry, survival requires power. Isn't that right? His shout echoed through the office. Though his final words were aimed at the executives behind him, their faces had already fallen into gloom. Realizing the new system's value, they seemed to understand that this battle was already lost. EVP Segawa, you still don't get it. Technology exists to benefit people. To exploit it for personal gain is unforgivable. Shut up. You're just some small-time company heir. At that moment, Segawa's phone rang again. The screen displayed Father. It was a call from the president of Segawa Trading. Segawa's hand trembled as he answered. Father, I'm sorry. Yes, I understand. The grip on his phone turned his fingers white as he ended the call. The last traces of color drained from his face. The twilight cast a symbolic shadow of his defeat across the floor. Fujikawa, look at the stock prices. On the large accounting department monitor, a sharp fluctuation in stock prices was displayed. Segawa Trading's acquisitions had suddenly come to a halt. In front of the screen, employees let out small sighs of relief. Segawa, clutching his head with both hands, collapsed onto the floor. Wrinkles formed on his once pristine suit, but he no longer seemed to care. The image of a man stripped of power and status was painfully vivid. My father's keepsake watch ticked quietly, marking the passage of time. Technology exists to serve humanity. My father's words now stood as an undeniable truth before Segawa. Fujikawa, what about tomorrow's board meeting? Yes, it will proceed as scheduled. The time has come to reveal the entire truth to everyone here. The sunset fully disappeared, and the office was shrouded in twilight. The principles my father left behind and the technology I had spent 10 years building, all of it would prove its worth tomorrow. In Shinomiya's notebook, the events of this historic day were being carefully documented. While traces of unease lingered on the faces of some employees, no one feared Segawa anymore. As long shadows stretched across the office floor, Segawa left the room, without uttering another word. The arrogance and authority that once defined him were nowhere to be seen. The downfall of a man who trampled on others' hearts and sought to exploit technology for personal gain mirrored the age-old lesson. Pride comes before a fall. The preparations for tomorrow's board meeting were complete. 10 years after losing my father's company, the time had finally come to reveal the full truth. On the night before the meeting, the office was nearly deserted, enveloped in silence. I sat at the accounting department desk, making final revisions to the materials for the meeting. The bluish glow of the monitor illuminated the dark room. The emergency board meeting, prompted by the plummeting stock prices, was the final chance to expose Sagawa's wrongdoing. However, the situation was proving more challenging than expected. Fujikawa, this is urgent. Shinomiya burst into the room, clutching a document with a tense expression. The papers she handed me contained shocking information. This is the minutes of Sagawa Trading's shareholder meeting. Yes, EVP Sagawa is planning to sell our company's shares to another investment fund. The document detailed a plan for Sagawa Trading to transfer its holdings in our company to a Hong Kong-based investment fund. Moreover, the true controller of that fund was none other than Sagawa himself. So, he hasn't given up. But why now? Sagawa Trading's executives approved the plan. EVP Sagawa is using his position to bypass even his father's directives. The cityscape visible through the office window seemed to cast an ominous glow. I had spent 10 years in Silicon Valley preparing for this day, but Sagawa's determination exceeded my expectations. Fujikawa, we still have time, according to my findings. At that moment, the elevator chime echoed through the quiet office. Startled, we held our breath at the unexpected late-night visitor. Heavy footsteps resonated in the hallway, stopping in front of the accounting department. Well, working late, aren't we? EVP Sagawa appeared, accompanied by several unfamiliar men. His polished smile concealed a deep, menacing intent. EVP Sagawa, who are these gentlemen? Oh, I've invited some special guests for tomorrow's board meeting. They came all the way from Hong Kong. They were likely representatives of the investment fund. Their cold, calculating gazes seemed to appraise us. Fujikawa. Manager Shinomiya, I had high hopes for you. Without your meddling, I would have ensured excellent treatment for you. Sagawa's words didn't make Shinomiya flinch. She stood firm, holding the thick evidence file in her hands. EVP Sagawa, you've been wrong about everything. This company belongs to its employees. It's not for the benefit of a select few. This world is survival of the fittest. My father was too soft, so it's up to me to steer things right. Sagawa approached the desk and scanned the documents displayed on the monitor. His expression grew increasingly tense. Well, this is quite a thorough investigation. Is this my personal accounts transaction history? How did you even? Yes, we know everything. Illegal stock trades, fabricated investment funds, unauthorized system access. The evidence is complete. Sagawa's smirk vanished, replaced by a cold, ruthless look. Impressive. But then, I'll just have to erase all that evidence. At his signal, the men behind him began advancing toward us. But just then, wait, this is just a duplicate. Shinomiya spread the file open, revealing its contents. The documents were indeed evidence, but they were all copies. The originals are already stored securely. What? On the Silicon Valley branch's servers, and as we speak, they're being distributed to our global offices. Sagawa's face turned pale. Even the men from the investment fund couldn't hide their agitation. When did you? Since the day my father's company was taken over 10 years ago, I've been preparing, determined never to repeat the same mistake. The years spent in Silicon Valley had not been wasted. Global standard technology and an unbreakable security network. All built for this very moment. EVP Sagawa, it's over. Just give up. Not yet, at the shareholders' meeting. That won't work either. Now, before we present all the evidence to the board, why not come clean yourself? At that moment, the building's emergency alarm blared. The sudden sound froze everyone in place. What's the meaning of this? Wait, this is... I quickly checked the fire safety system screen. The alarm indicated a fire in the development floor. But at this hour, a fire seemed unlikely. Could it be the system under development? Segawa's faint smirk told me everything. He had resorted to sabotage as his final move. Fujikawa, to the development floor. The two of us raced up the stairs. The elevators had already shut down due to the emergency. Segawa and the men from the investment fund followed closely behind. When we reached the development floor, smoke was rising from the server room. It appeared that the main server, which held critical data, had overheated and caught fire. Serves you right, now all the evidence is gone. But I remained calm. EVP Segawa, you still don't understand anything. Shinomiya opened her laptop and rapidly typed on the keyboard. The screen displayed a diagram showing the status of servers worldwide. The data is backed up and distributed. Even if these servers are destroyed, all the evidence remains intact. This can't be. My father always said, technology exists to protect people. That's why I've spent the last 10 years honing my skills. Behind Segawa, firefighters rushed into the room. Among them were police investigators, their presence signaling the end of this ordeal. Damn it! Segawa's shoulders slumped in defeat. The men from the investment fund had already vanished. In the emergency stairwell, employees who had hurried to the scene stood watching. Realizing the situation was under control, they began to smile in relief. It's finally over, isn't it? Yay, it's all over now. Outside, the dawn was breaking. The light of a new morning slowly painted the eastern sky. Fujikawa, let's prepare for the board meeting. Right. It's time to reveal the entire truth. I glanced at my father's keepsake watch. After this long battle, my heart felt unexpectedly clear. Technology exists to protect people. I reflected on those words once more. Our company would be reborn with this new day. Standing alongside all its employees as we take the next step forward. As Segawa was escorted away by the police, Shinomiya quietly opened her notebook. Inside were the details of our struggles and the promise we had made 10 years ago. Fujikawa, our dream is only just beginning, isn't it? Yeah, the real challenge starts now. The sunlight streamed in brightly, signaling the start of a new day. The ideals passed down from my father and the bonds formed with my colleagues. All of it felt like it had existed for this very moment. The morning of the emergency board meeting arrived. Executives began gathering in the conference room, filling it with a tense atmosphere. The events of the previous night had already spread throughout the company. The attempted arson in the development floor, the arrest of EVP Segawa, and the emergency reports from Silicon Valley. No one could have predicted that so much would unfold in a single night. Shinomiya, are we ready? Yes, everything is set. The large screen in the meeting room displayed live feeds connecting offices from around the globe. Silicon Valley, London, and Singapore. The leaders at each location nodded from their respective screens. As the directors finished taking their seats, the heavy door opened. Entering the room was Senior Director Nojima, one of the company's longest-serving executives and a known ally of Segawa. I demand a detailed explanation of last night's events. His words heightened the tension in the room even further. Managing Director Nojima is known as a member of the Segawa school. Despite his allegiance, the look on Nojima's face betrayed a hint of unease. Then, I shall begin. I stood, casting a brief glance at my father's watch. After 10 years, the moment to fulfill everything we had worked for had finally arrived. First, let me start by revealing my true identity. The screen displayed a photograph, It was a picture taken 10 years ago during the company's founding. In it, my younger father stood beside me, a student at the time. The conference room fell silent. No one seemed able to process the reality unfolding before their eyes. I'm the founder's son and largest shareholder. 10 years ago, I went to Silicon Valley to develop the technology for this day. No way, it's you. Shinomiya began operating her laptop, presenting one piece of evidence after another. Records of Sagawa's illegal stock trades. Traces of unauthorized access to the system. And multiple secret agreements with the Hong Kong Investment Fund. EVP Sagawa tried to exploit this company for personal gain, but technology isn't meant to serve one person's greed. The head of the Silicon Valley branch spoke up from the screen. Our new system has already been recognized as a global standard. This technology exists to improve people's lives. Director Nojima's expression shifted. Learning of his former ally's betrayal, he let out a deep sigh. I apologize. We were about to make a grave mistake. No, it's not too late yet. The screen transitioned to a new business plan. It was a vision for the company's future, centered around the globally recognized technology to achieve even greater growth. Let us return this company to its roots. To my father's guiding principle, technology exists to serve humanity. The conference room was silent, save for the faint sound of tears glistening in the eyes of some employees. Then, a voice from the Singapore branch broke the silence. We wholeheartedly support this initiative. Voices of agreement followed from London and Silicon Valley. On the screen, colleagues from around the world nodded in solidarity. I have a proposal as well. I nominate Fujikawa as the next president. The room buzzed with energy. Not with dissent, but with excitement and hope. An air of optimism filled the space. Director Nojima, everyone. Shinomiya quietly opened her old notebook. On the page with the promise made 10 years ago, new words had been added. Fujikawa, it's all come together now. With a unanimous vote, I was officially appointed as president. My father's watch gleamed, as if heralding the dawn of a new era. 1 month later, the company was rapidly transforming. The new system was receiving widespread acclaim across the globe, and employee morale was soaring. The development floor buzzed with the energy of young engineers. They exchanged ideas freely, working on groundbreaking new technologies. How's it going? Great, thanks to you. We've been receiving amazing feedback from users worldwide. Since Sagawa's departure, the atmosphere within the company had completely shifted. The rigid hierarchy had dissolved, replaced by open and lively discussions. That evening, I stood on the rooftop with Shinomiya. The city bathed in the sunset looked like a whole new world. Fujikawa, do you remember, 10 years ago, the promise we made right here on this rooftop? Yay! We promised to make this the world's leading technology company. Shinomiya opened her notebook and revealed a new page. On it were the dreams of our employees, written one by one. What's this? I've collected everyone's promises for the future, hopes to use technology for global happiness, writing them down one by one. In the distant sky, a contrail shimmered brightly. Its path, stretching outward, seemed to symbolize the road ahead. Father, watch over us. We're about to embark on a true challenge. My watch, illuminated by the setting sun, radiated a warm light. Technology exists to serve humanity. That principle was now deeply ingrained in the hearts of every employee. The front page of the company newsletter bore these words. World-changing technology begins with the human heart. 6 months after the Sagawa incident, the company recorded its highest performance in history. But this wasn't just a numerical achievement. It was proof that every employee took pride in their work and poured their passion into it. Each new morning brought renewed energy to the office. On screens connecting our global offices, smiles were abundant. The dream my father left behind had become a set of powerful wings, spreading across the world. With the power of technology, we strive to enrich lives. Carrying this mission, our challenge continues. In Shinomiya's notebook, new pages were being added. They served as guideposts for a future yet unseen. Perhaps this story is only just beginning,